Once again, your host, Karen Hanan.
Thank you for staying with me. And for those just joining us, my guest is Eilis Kennedy, all the way from Ireland. And Eilis is one of the great Irish voices. And we're talking about her life and her work. Her current work is in a duet format now with a group called Lumiere. But a recent project involved a whole array of wonderful Irish musicians and voices. And this project was called Beal Twinner. And we're going to get to that in just a minute. But Eilis, first of all, let's give out a website for people who might want to go and find your music and find out more about you.
Okay. Well, the best one to find out about me right now is www.lumieremusic, L-U-M-I-E-R-E, music, all one word, .net.
Okay.
And also a website called www.irl.org.uk. So both of those websites will give you some information about our current projects, and if you want to send us messages or find me or talk to me or whatever,
okay.
you can do that.
So, before we come back to your music, let's just talk a little bit about John Benny's Pub. John, of course, is your husband, and you have a pub, which is, but it's also a great music venue in the west of Ireland. So talk about that a little bit, and if somebody dropped in there, who are they likely to see on stage?
Well, we don't have a stage as such. It is a pub. You'd find it first of all down by the pier in Dingle, which is the best town in Ireland, in County Kerry, and you'll find our pub right down opposite the tourist office near the pier, and it's called John Benny's or John Benny Moriarty's. And who will you likely to find? Well, you could find myself. You could find Pauline Scanlon. You could find the guitarist Donna Hennessy. You might find on occasion somebody like Paddy Keenan, the piper. If he's visiting, he always drops into us. You'll probably hear, who else? There's a whole range of people, a very good range of people who live in Dingle right now who are great musicians, people who come along occasionally, like Owen Dignan, the piper. So there's really Seamus Begley, of course, who lives, a couple of miles away, the singer and musician and general entertainer. He's a good pal of ours. He comes in quite often as well. So you'd be probably fairly sure to meet one of those people if you come in.
All right. So now let's talk about the Beal Twinner project. And this, of course, must be near and dear to your heart because essentially it's the poems of your father put to music by Sean Davey. But can you talk about your dad a little bit as a poet and then how this whole project came about?
Well, my dad, who passed away about 26 years ago, he was a teacher, and in his spare time, which he had very little of, but for some reason or magically, he used to jot down little bits of prose and poetry, and when he passed away, we put them all together, the ones we could find, in a little booklet, and we called it Beal Twinner, which means the mouth of the wave, and it was the name of a boat that he had, because fishing was one of his other kind of hobbies and passions. And so we kept them all together in a collection at that stage, which was called Fóthar na Mamach, which is an area, a small area in the I suppose West Kerry Peninsula. And years later, Sean Davey came to live in the village where my mother still lives, and Sean Davey, the composer, I'm sure you've heard of him, and I think he's been on your program recently.
Yes.
And he became involved and very interested in working with Seamus Begley on a project, a musical collaboration. So Seamus and his wife Mary read some of my dad's poems. Mary translated them for Sean, and he liked the imagery in them, and he liked the ideas that a lot of the poems were about people in the area, about community, about life in rural Kerry in the sort of 40s, 50s and so on. And some of them were individual stories about events that happened. And so Sean, being the genius he is, put music to these ideas, and so what became of that then was a project called Beal Twinner, which was, first of all, really, I suppose, something for him to work on, something new. Then it became a documentary which was screened on the national airwaves here in Ireland, and by Philip King's company, who has since made many, many other great documentaries. Then we did a concert, and after that, I suppose, we did many, many concerts in Ireland. We did one in France. We've done one in the National Concert Hall in Dublin. So we've performed this song cycle, as I suppose you can call it, a couple of dozen times now. It's a great project. Obviously, as you say, it's close to my heart because very, obviously delighted for my mother especially, and for all of my sisters and brothers, because it kind of brought our dad back to us, and all the imagery that he had in his head. It's not that we'd forgotten them, but giving them new light and a bit of a new perspective with sound and song was just wonderful to be part of.
All right, and we're going to play a track from that, and this is, again, I'm going to mangle this, but Belte na Magane. Okay, now you tell me how to say that, and I'm going to stop playing it.
Okay, Beltana na Maidana. Beltana is the word for the month of May, and traditionally it would be a devotional month for Mary. And so, especially in the Irish schools, you would have a little altar, what they would call a May altar, which would be in devotion to, the Virgin Mary. And now that tradition may have died out a small little bit, but my mother was always a great believer in, I suppose, it's not that she was extremely devout, but she liked this May altar always because she loved flowers. She still does. And I have very vivid memories of her classroom. She was also teaching with all of these May flowers always. And because of that was her favourite month, my dad wrote this poem for my mother. And it became, I think, one of the nicest songs on the CD because it's a very joyful hymn, if you like. And it's very, very popular at home with people who hear it.
Okay, well, let's have a listen and then we can talk more when we come back. The lush voices and instrumentation of the album Beal Twinner, Bealtuinne. And Eilis Kennedy, my guest, of course, is one of the featured voices and musicians in that wonderful group. And we're going to talk a little bit more about this amazing sort of setup. What a great project this was when we come back. So stay with us. We will be right back.